Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Real Talk with Coach Sherry, and this channel is about workforce development, career readiness, entrepreneurship, and of course, real life, real issues, and real talk. Thank you for coming on this journey with me as I go back in time 10 years ago, reading and revisiting the last 6 days of my mother living with ALS. And today is day 3. And like I told you before in the first video, I wrote these out in my blog and I never read them again. So reading them out to you is my first time reading it over. So if there are some glitches here or there, just know that I just wrote it and left it there. And I actually wrote these, I didn't even realize it, on her first year anniversary. And I always said I was going to go back at 10 years. And so here we are. So this is day 3. I also want to tell you, going back and reading through them really has stirred up a lot in me. It's made me feel, I can't describe the internal feeling, but it's really a tight feeling. Because it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But I'm glad that you're here for it. And I appreciate the comments that you leave. And it really makes me feel like you were right there with me. So I appreciate you. All right, so this is day 3 of the last 6 days of living with ALS. Friday, August 27th, 2010. I woke up this morning feeling like today I would have to make some decisions, big girl decisions. I didn't know where the road was going to lead us. I didn't let the various thoughts cloud my mind. Tweeting, texting, and Facebook became a particular type of therapy for me. Anything that I felt or experienced, I would pour it out there to my family and friends. By utilizing those resources made me feel like I was not physically alone in this. I would receive hundreds of responses that were like the wind beneath my wings. I once again awoke to the beautiful sunrise, and I spent a great bit of time watching my mother. It amazed me how still and peaceful she was. Giving up was not an option, which is why I believe God allowed me to see her respond yesterday. My emotions were like riding the roller coaster called acceptance/denial. I rode that ride before. When she was first diagnosed with ALS, I accepted it, but when I was with her, when she first went into respiratory failure 7 months after that diagnosis, I was in denial that she was leaving. This time when she relapsed, I accepted that she was leaving, but when I saw the fight still in her yesterday, it put me back in denial. Later, the doctors told me that some of her actions were actually reflexes. Hearing is the last sense to go, so there was part of her brain that could still hear and tried to have her respond because she could hear us. That was very important for me to hear because I wondered why, after that last outburst, she laid motionless for the remainder of the day and night. I spoke to my husband constantly. He was holding it down with our 3 children at home. They understood that Nana may not come home this time, but they were also very active, so he continued taking them to football and cheerleading practice. However, this day he came up to the hospital with my dad, and I was very relieved because the decisions that I had to make required a strong shoulder to lean on. The doctors had been monitoring the progression of the damage that my mother's brain had suffered due to the stroke and the extreme weakness and loss that she had due to the ALS. The diagnosis was not favorable. Standing outside of the room talking about our next plan, I tried to make sure that every angle was covered. I needed to know the absolute of everything. I needed to know what others before me had done. I needed to know what their studies had said. I needed to know what they would do if it was their mother. What would they do if it was their mother? What would they do if it was their mother? What would you do if it was your mother? What would you do if it was your mother? That question took them by surprise, but by then lots of things I asked, suggested, and demanded surprised them, so they took that question literally. With a moment's hesitation, but while looking me in the eyes, they answered the question the way I knew it needed to be answered. It wasn't politically correct or not what I necessarily wanted to hear, but it was what I felt in my heart and in my soul. I didn't believe that I deserved that type of power to make that kind of decision. I really wanted God to step in and do his thing so that this wouldn't be my decision. My inside voice was quiet. My reflexes wanted to pull the skin off of my bones. Whew. From where I was standing, I could see inside the room and look at the warrior who birthed and raised me. I could see a warrior who fought a good fight. I could see a warrior who wanted peace and to be still. I could see my mother. I swallowed something in my throat that felt like blades of knives. I did some deep breathing and slowly exhaled out. The minute hand on the clock paused. Not one person moved, nor did they rush me. I silently prayed to God to tell me his will. At that point, I could only hear his whispers. But I started to feel the sense of letting go, of fingers slipping away. I didn't try to grasp the fingers and hold them tighter. I let them release without a struggle. I pulled my shoulders back and looked back at the doctor straight in the eyes and said, "Okay, when and how is it done?" I'm sure I've taken matters into my own hands before with various decisions in the past. I had to decide which college to attend. I've lived in several major cities where I had to decide which home to purchase while my husband was away at football camp. I am a mother of 3, and we know the decisions a mother has to make. But this decision was the mamma jamma of all decisions. But after thoroughly understanding my mother's condition and weighing in all the options, including quality of life and her wishes, I decided to have my mother's ventilator unplugged. Remembering that decision, even 10 years later right now, takes my breath away. We decided to do it on Monday. This would give family, especially my mother's sons, my brothers, and friends and family an opportunity to come and embrace her on this side one last time. It was my silent prayer that his will would be done before that. My husband and father convinced me to come home for that night. It really upset me that they would want me to do that. I was so uneasy about that. When we got home, my children raced to me and embraced me. I tried to respond and match their emotions, but I felt like I was two-timing my mother. Here I was with so much life around me while she was surrounded by death. It seemed so unfair. Then I remembered my mother's speak assist machine and went to it immediately. I wanted to replay the last thing that she was trying to tell me on the 25th. I pushed play and she typed, "See Trey's knee, take care of." A week prior to the 25th, my son hurt his knee during football practice. It was giving him problems and we would have him ice it with no change. After hearing that, it prompted me to go directly to him and put my hands on his knee and pray to God for its healing. I remember crying and praying. I was crying because my mother never ceased to amaze me. Even her last thoughts were of others. After that, my husband and I sat all of our kids down and told them that Nana was not going to come back to this home. As my husband continued to explain, my son began to weep, and so did I. My middle daughter just looked at my husband, taking it all in, and my youngest daughter came to sit on my lap to comfort me. She put her arms around me and said, "It will be all right, Mommy, don't cry." That was day 3 of our last days living with ALS. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Real Talk with Coach Sherry.